Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now let's begin. My house has a very unique design. Well, I call it unique, but most people would probably call it weird. And actually, they have. Almost everyone who's visited, including a few girls I snuck in when my parents weren't home, has said something about how odd it looks. I'd show you pictures to make it easier to explain, but my parents definitely wouldn't like that. So instead, I'll just describe the important parts. Most houses have a porch or a walkway that leads up to the front door, right? And usually there's a small covering above it like a canopy. Well, my house has something similar, but different. Imagine if your front door wasn't flush with the front of your house. Instead, it's pushed inward, so you have to walk through a narrow, covered hallway between two walls of the house before you actually reach the door. It's almost like being outside, but technically you're still walking through part of the house. Now my bedroom is on the first floor, right next to that external hallway. If I stand up and look out my window, I can see anyone standing at the front door, but they'd have their back to me. I got into the habit of peeking through that window whenever someone rang the doorbell, kind of like using a hidden camera to check who was there before stepping out. What I'm about to tell you happened a few months ago, right at the start of summer. My parents were out of town for a week, so I decided to take advantage of that and let my girlfriend Anna stay over for a few days. Normally, my strict parents would never allow it, but what they didn't know wouldn't hurt them. Besides, they'd met Anna a dozen times, so it wasn't like I was bringing a stranger into the house. The first night was calm. We had a simple movie night with snacks and a bit of wine, then went to bed early. The next morning we swam in the pool, relaxed, played games, and just enjoyed each other's company. Neither of us are party people, so that was perfect. But the second night was when everything went wrong. It was around midnight. We were lying in bed in the dark, talking quietly, when I heard a strange sound outside. It was this high-pitched screeching or dragging noise. I shushed Anna and listened carefully. It sounded like it was coming from the driveway, which is right beside the house. My heart started to race because that meant whatever it was close. I listened a bit longer and realized it sounded like one of my dad's trash cans being moved around. He usually keeps them in front of the garage, and I remembered seeing them there earlier that day. My first thought was that an animal, maybe a raccoon, was rummaging for food. Still, hearing that kind of noise so close to the house while you're home alone is unsettling. I told Anna to stay in bed while I went to scare off whatever it was. I walked to the front door, flipped on the exterior lights, but they didn't quite reach the driveway. The porch and yard were lit, but the driveway was still mostly dark. Reluctantly, I opened the door and stepped outside, expecting to hear something scurry away. But the noise had stopped. Everything was silent. I stood there for a while, waiting, but nothing moved. Thinking the animal had already taken off, I turned on my phone flashlight and slowly walked toward the driveway. When I got closer, I saw one of the trash cans had been knocked over. Its contents spilled across the ground. The other two were still standing by the garage. I sighed, realizing I'd have to clean up the mess. I shined my light around, checking for movement, but there was nothing there. So I picked everything up, put it back in the can, then rolled all 3 trash cans into the garage and shut the door. I locked it just in case and went back inside. Anna was half asleep when I got back to the room. I kissed her forehead, climbed into bed, and tried not to wake her. I was drifting in and out of that half-dreaming state when I heard something again. A soft, rhythmic tapping sound. It was faint, like metal lightly tapping against glass. At first I thought I was dreaming it, but then it came again, steady and deliberate. My eyes shot open. It wasn't in my head. The sound was real, and it was coming from somewhere in the room. I held my breath and listened. After a few seconds, I realized it wasn't from inside the room at all. It was coming from outside my window. My stomach dropped. I forced myself out of bed, crept toward the window, and slowly pulled back the curtain just enough to peek outside. Under the dim outdoor light, I saw the outline of a person standing at the front door, with their back facing me. My heart stopped. They were gently tapping on the glass, again and again, as if expecting someone to answer. But it was past midnight. The house was dark. No one should have been there. I tried to make out who it was, but it was too dark to see details. Then suddenly the person started turning around. Without thinking, I ducked down beneath the window, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I stayed crouched there for what felt like forever, terrified they had seen me. Eventually, I forced myself to look again. Slowly, I lifted the curtain and instantly wished I hadn't. Just inches from the glass, staring directly at me, was a face. I screamed and stumbled backward, yanking the curtain shut. The image was burned into my mind, a man's face, pale and shriveled, like melting skin clinging to bone. Anna bolted upright, panicking as I shouted that someone was outside. I locked the bedroom door and called the police with shaking hands. They arrived about 10 minutes later. We stayed locked in the room until they cleared the house. There were no signs of forced entry, and every door and window was still locked. The officers searched the yard and found nothing unusual. They told us to call again if it happened once more, then left. The rest of the week passed quietly. I told my parents about it when they came home, expecting them to freak out, but they didn't. They thought I was overreacting, said it was probably just some homeless man passing through. I tried to convince myself they were right. But now I'm not so sure. Over the past few nights, I've been waking up to strange noises outside my window again. Not trash cans this time, different sounds. My dad's planning to install security cameras soon, but something tells me that man wasn't just a random stranger. I can't shake the feeling that he's been coming back. What you're about to hear is an experience that nearly made me lose my mind. It's something I still think about often, even though months have passed. I've managed to recover a bit since it happened, but it's not something you easily forget. The story isn't very long, so I'll get right into it. I'm a single guy in my mid-30s living alone in a small one-story house. No roommates, no pets, just me. The house is modest, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a living room, kitchen, dining area, and a tiny garage. That's all. But honestly, life is great. My job gives me total freedom. I work whenever I want, answer to no one, no boss, no parents, no girlfriend. Freedom has always been a huge part of who I am, and I do everything I can to protect it. I know some people might call that immature or lonely, but to each their own. As long as no one judges me, I won't judge them. That freedom does come with its downsides, though. Over the years, I've developed some bad habits. The worst one by far is my sleep schedule. It's absolutely terrible. For some reason, I'm most productive late at night, so I usually stay up until dawn and sleep through most of the afternoon. It's just how my body works. I know it's unhealthy, but since I don't have a reason to change it, I don't. One night, I was up really late, past 3 a.m. working on my computer at my desk. I wasn't listening to music or watching anything, just focused on my work. The whole house was completely silent. I was deep in the zone, fully concentrated, when suddenly, bam, the silence shattered. I heard footsteps pounding down the hallway toward my bedroom, fast, heavy footsteps, followed by 3 or 4 loud bangs on my bedroom door. These weren't normal knocks, they were thunderous, violent, like the police trying to break into a drug house. I jumped up so fast I banged my knee on the desk and knocked over my monitor. My heart nearly stopped. The shock of it froze me in place. Just imagine being completely alone in your house at 3 a.m., surrounded by silence, and then hearing someone sprint toward your door and slam on it. It's the single most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me. I stood there, frozen, my eyes locked on the door. Every nerve in my body screamed that someone was about to burst in. I pictured the door flying open, some stranger rushing inside, and me having to fight for my life in the dark. But nothing happened. No door burst open, no sound of footsteps, just silence. I don't know how long I stood there, but it felt like forever. My body wouldn't move no matter how much I tried. It was like sleep paralysis, except I was wide awake. Then suddenly, I heard the sound again. The same footsteps, only this time they were walking away, heading back down the hallway. That somehow broke my trance. Without thinking, I grabbed the only thing near me, an empty beer bottle, and ran to the door. I flung it open and charged into the hallway, yelling at the top of my lungs. I must have looked insane, screaming and waving a bottle around, but I didn't care. I was running on pure adrenaline. I searched every room, every corner of the house, but there was no one there. My house isn't big. There aren't many places someone could hide. Yet even after checking everything, I found nothing. No open doors, no broken windows. Everything was locked tight. That made it even worse. The burst of courage I'd had was gone, replaced by a deep, creeping fear. I ran back to my bedroom, locked the door, and called the police. While I waited for them to arrive, I sat completely still, listening for any sound. But the house stayed silent. When the officers showed up, we searched every room together, but again, nothing. No sign of forced entry, no footprints, nothing out of place. One of the officers suggested that whoever had been there must have left before I noticed. I told him that was impossible. Everything was locked. He shrugged and said I probably overlooked something. It took everything in me not to yell at him right there. I know I didn't overlook anything. Everything was locked before and after. So how did someone get in and out? The only other possibility was that I imagined the whole thing, but I know I didn't. The sound, the force of the bangs, the footsteps, they were real. For the next week I was a mess. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on work. My mind kept replaying that moment. The footsteps rushing toward my room, the door shaking under those bangs. I tried to convince myself it was just a dream or some kind of hallucination, but it was too real. I'm better now, though not completely. Even today, I still don't have a logical explanation. Maybe I really did miss an unlocked door or window. But even if that's true, why would someone break in just to pound on my door and then run away? That's the part that still keeps me up some nights. My name is Patrick McCabe, and ever since I was a kid, I've had really messed up teeth, like atrociously bad. Because of that, and a few other things, I ended up getting my wisdom teeth removed way later than most people. Usually people get theirs out in high school or maybe early in college at the latest. But me? I didn't even sit down for a consultation until after I had already graduated college. The whole process was awful. Painful doesn't even begin to describe it. It was easily one of the most miserable experiences of my life. I won't bore you with every little detail about the recovery, but there's something you need to know. The pain was so unbearable that I literally couldn't sleep through the night without taking pain medication. I came up with this weird system. I'd wake myself up every 3 hours to take my next dose, cycling between the 2 meds my doctor had prescribed. It was exhausting, but it was the only thing that stopped the toothaches from making me cry. Because of that schedule, my sleep got completely ruined. My body got used to those 3-hour sleep cycles, and even after I recovered, it was hard to get back to normal. I felt like I wasn't even human anymore, constantly waking up and falling back asleep. It was like I'd become something else. Then came that one night. I think it was during the first week of recovery. I woke up around 4 a.m. to take my meds again, but I couldn't fall back asleep afterward. It was insanely hot in my room, which was strange because my AC had suddenly stopped working. After tossing and turning for a while, I decided to open my bedroom window. That helped a little, but not enough to sleep. So there I was, lying there, staring at the ceiling, begging my body to just shut down. That's when I heard it. At first I thought it was just a normal outside noise, maybe some wind or bugs. But as I listened more closely, I realized it sounded like scratching, like something with claws was dragging them across the roof. It didn't sound right. The noise got louder and I realized it wasn't coming from the ground or the trees, it was above me. Something was on the roof. I figured it was probably an animal. We live in a wooded area, so raccoons, squirrels, even possums aren't uncommon. I wanted to ignore it, but my dad would have been furious if something had burrowed into our attic again. So, I decided to check it out. I got up, threw off my blanket, and went straight to the garage to grab one of my dad's heavy-duty flashlights. I walked out the back door and aimed the beam at the roof near my bedroom window. Nothing. I sighed, assuming whatever it was had already scurried off. But I decided to walk around the house anyway, just in case. As I reached the front where the roof is higher, something caught my eye. A quick flicker of movement in the corner of the flashlight's beam. I turned the light toward it instantly. and what I saw nearly made me pass out. There was a person on the roof. Not an animal, not a raccoon or a stray cat. A person, a completely naked human being standing perfectly still, staring right at me from the roof. I screamed, I couldn't help it. And the second I did, that person started moving. Not walking, bolting. It was like they were allergic to the light. Their movements were unnatural, jerky, and terrifyingly fast. I tried to keep the flashlight on them, but they moved quicker than anything I'd ever seen. They were running toward the back of the house and toward my room. I don't know what I was thinking, but I ran too. Instead of hiding, I sprinted around the house yelling for my dad. I reached the backyard just in time to see that thing, that person, getting ready to jump off the roof. I froze. There was no way someone could make that jump without breaking every bone in their legs. But they didn't even hesitate. They just jumped. The sound when they hit the concrete was sickening. A heavy, wet thud. Before I could even react, the person got up. They got up. Like nothing had happened. And then they ran straight at me. They tackled me to the ground, clawing at my face, at my eyes, trying to rip me apart. I screamed and kicked, but it didn't matter. They were unbelievably strong, grunting and spitting like some kind of animal. I felt blood pouring down my face and thought I was about to die. Then, out of nowhere, I heard the back door slam open. My dad came running, yelling, and ripped the person off of me. They fought, my dad trying to hold him down. But the guy broke free. Completely covered in my blood, he sprinted toward the edge of our yard, climbed the fence, and vanished into the forest. We just stood there, frozen, listening to the sounds of his footsteps fading into the darkness. I'll skip ahead. My dad drove me to the hospital. He was panicking so badly he almost crashed twice. I had lost a ton of blood, but luckily my mouth was untouched, so at least my teeth didn't need more work. The police came later, but they were useless. They said searching the woods was impossible and told us to install security cameras next time. Later, my dad found out that the man on the roof had actually been digging into our attic, like an animal. My mom completely broke down after that. She couldn't sleep for weeks. She was the one who finally installed cameras all around the house. To this day, I have no idea who that man was, what he wanted, or how he even found our home. And honestly, I don't think I ever want to know. If you made it this far, like, share, and subscribe for more true horror stories. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching this from and what time is it right now?